Welcome to the event, man. How are you?
Hey Val, how's it going? I'm so stoked to be here. Wow, with that intro, it looks like I need to find my genius zone.
Big
That's way
shoes
too
to
many
fill.
things. I
Wearing
might
many
have some
hats.
work to do here myself.
I love it. So
Awesome, great to be
Danny,
here, Val.
the topic today, it's a big topic. Competing with a $1.3 billion marketing budget is a big feat to accomplish. And really, these companies they're not concerned about the client's experience. Really, their concern is closing the transaction and making sure that it's the least bumpy that it can possibly be. So the loan advisors that truly care about their clients, they want to provide a good experience, they want to be more valuable. What can they really be doing before the transaction in order to separate themselves from these giants within the industry?
Yeah, absolutely, Val. And I love this concept. Rates don't matter. And I think there's people out there in the market right now that are proving it. Right, they're winning, and they're not just surviving, but they're thriving in this marketplace. And some of the things I want to touch on here today, as it relates to that question, are definitely tactics that you can take away. So, team, my goal here is just to offer you. I'm going to throw out a ton of ideas. If you just take away one thing and implement it, that here. Take some notes, and just know that you don't have to eat the elephant all at once, right? You can just take this all one bite at a time. And what I would go so far as to say, Val, is that it's not just that rates don't matter; it's that rates right now in this environment could be happening for your business, not to your business. But that's only true if you step up and you act as an advisor and you continue to retain the clients post closing by doing some of the things that I'll mention here. So, some strategies pre-transaction. So, the first thing that I would recommend is that you absolutely need to have a candid conversation with your referral partners and describe exactly how you want to be introduced. By the time that referral comes over to you, so this conversation is not about competing with those massive entities on marketing, right? Because there are clients that will, unfortunately, they're not going to call you because that company's already claimed the narrative and communicated with that family a new narrative of expectation, and they're already over in that camp right now, right? We have to win them back, but this conversation is about winning those families that haven't yet gone over to that camp of expectation, and they still have an expectation that you are the best one to serve them, and a local advisor who can be focused on their long-term well-being and long-term wealth building is the right solution for their family. Step one in that process is to make sure that when your referral partners pass them over, they do so setting that expectation up front, right? So if your clients are coming to you right now and say, hey, I'm working with Sally with XYZ Real Estate, and she said you have the lowest rates in town. What are your rates? By the time those words come out of their mouth, you've already lost, right? Your client should come into your business with an expectation of what you offer and what your unique value proposition is. So that's one thing, right? They should show up already knowing what you do and how you're different. And then you need to work on honoring that. So there's three other steps pre-transaction that I highly, highly recommend. But do that first one first. If you do nothing else, set the expectation properly up front. The next thing you want to do, and this is all about earning the right to be in a transaction. So each phase of the funnel, right? Now you've gotten the lead in your funnel. You need to convert that lead. Then you need to manage the transaction well. And then finally, you need to be in relationship with that family or that borrower for the extended 30-year period of time so you can continue to do business with them over and over again. But each phase has a gate that if you don't get through it, you don't get to the next phase, right? So this conversation now is about how do you maximize your conversion, right? So the first thing you need to do is you actually need to know what your clients need, right? If you ask them what they want, they'll tell you. But if you continue to ask questions as an expert, you'll find exactly what they need, right? So there's three main steps for that. First step is to do what we at Art of Homeownership call a dreams and goals call, right? This is not a call where you get the loan application. This is a call where you understand what your clients really need. You ask them the questions that the loan application does not ask. And you use the information you gather in that dreams and goals call to reinforce the value that you set with your referral partner, right? And that came in with that referral. The next thing you need to do is you need to be really intentional about having what's called a pre-purchase consultation. The Art of Homeownership website for members has all of this information built, into our e-learning platform, so you can get the dreams and goals script, the pre-purchase consultation script. But that pre-purchase consultation is all about setting the plan, right? So you get the dreams and goals, you understand what they need. In the pre-purchase consultation, you describe how not only you're going to solve their immediate want and need, but you're going to then leverage a strategy that extends beyond closing. So you're selling a different product in that moment than those companies that have a $1.2 billion marketing budget. And one thing that I highly recommend incorporating into any pre-purchase consultation is what we call the appraisal gap strategy. Many of us are in markets that have highly constrained inventory, very few houses, a lot of buyers, and that's driven home prices up really dramatically. And, over the past 18 months, we've seen a lot of low appraisals. A good friend of mine, Rene Rodriguez, he runs a program called Amplify, which I highly recommend anybody watching this look into and potentially attend. He introduces this concept of predict, preempt, prevent. If you know the appraisal is likely to come in low, and you know that will be a highly emotional experience, future cast for your clients, be the expert. Let them know what will happen and how you, as a mortgage advisor and debt manager, are going to help them navigate through that before it happens. So you do two things. You drain all the emotion out of the event and you establish yourself as the expert. So when that happens, it doesn't set you and your referral partner back in trust. It actually reinforces you as the expert because you were able to see into the future in a way that client wouldn't have been able to without you. And then the final thing you need to do, team, is, and this is critical right now, you need to be an active participant in every offer that's being made. You should not be a passive player in that activity. If you're just sending off pre-approval letters for a TBD property, or you're giving them some technology or tool that allows them to update their letter or have their realtor update the letter, and you just find out maybe on Monday if they got into contract over the weekend, you are doing it wrong. Stop. You need to be an active participant in the offer stage. You need to be communicating with the listing agent. You need to be collaborating as a team, what's called the triangle of trust. Your client, you, and that referral partner need to be a united front to the listing agent so that you can build confidence on their part and confidence ultimately transferring to the seller so that your offers can be picked more frequently than those of other people out there, especially those companies that have that $1.2 billion marketing budget that aren't thinking about controlling the client experience and the transaction in this way.
Man, I think we could stop it there.
Was that enough for you, Val?
No, that was awesome. And everything that you're talking about is really getting these clients in the door, making sure that you're winning that business. But ultimately, the whole point of having such a good client experience and providing so much value is you really want to turn your clients into raving fans. You want them to be advocates for your business and not only support you moving forward when they are making their next decision, but refer you to everyone they know. Like, you want them to be excited about the value that they're getting from you. So during that transaction, Danny, what are the things that loan or mortgage advisors should be doing in order to turn those clients into fans of their business?
So Val, I love the way you represented that. And I completely agree with what you just said, but I'd like to offer to anybody watching that it's actually even a little bit sadder than that. More than 85% of clients do not remember the name of their mortgage advisor 9 months after they closed the biggest transaction of their life with them. So 9 months later, more than 85% cannot remember their name. So even if they wanted to do business with you, again, they can't. They don't even know how to get in touch with you because they can't remember who you are. So the raving fan idea, absolutely. And I'm a huge advocate of that. And I believe that if you implement these strategies consistently in a way that automates the best practices of this industry, and we'll talk about that in a second, that you will create raving fans. But at first, team, all you need to do is just make sure they remember your name. You're already winning the game over 85% of your competition if you just do that. So how do you do that, right? So you've already earned the lead from the referral partner. It came over strong. You did all the stuff to earn their business. They locked with you. They're in contract. You won the contract, right? So you're already way ahead of the game, right? Because there were 20 other offers on the house. Yours was picked, right? 1 out of 20, 5% chance of it happening if all things were equal, but they weren't because you controlled the transaction. You controlled the offer process. So you won that deal over the competition. Now they're in your pipeline, right? So now you have permission to do their transaction based on all that other tech activity. Now you need permission to be in relationship with them for the next 30 years, right? How do you do that? You honor your promises, right? You make promises and you keep them. So how would I do that, right? The first thing that I would do is I would have a celebration call where I set expectations with that client and I would let them know exactly how things were going to proceed with my team, right? And this is where the genius zone comes in. And I would have a similar conversation with the listing agent, similar conversation with the buying agent, and let everybody know how the process will work. And set yourself up to win. Do not overpromise, right? Promise exactly what you know you can deliver. And then as you're going through the process, you check back in at a minimum on a weekly basis and remind everybody, hey, I said I was going to do this, and that's exactly what I did. Or the team was supposed to do this, that's exactly what I did. And what that is doing is reinforcing this idea of trust, because that's what you need in order to be in relationship, right? If you think about all the relationships you have in your life, right? What is the uniting force, right? Is that you have trust, right? You have trust that that person's going to show up in a certain way. And that's what your clients and your referral partners need from you. So you make what I call micro promises, or call micro promises, and then you keep them little at a time. Another thing that I highly recommend doing mid-transaction is having a check-in call where you're extremely vulnerable with your client. And that call would sound something like this. Hey, Val, I'm so excited that your appraisal came in at value, and, our loan approval is in, and, we're ready to release contingencies. But that's not what I'm calling about, right? The team will reach out to you and they'll tell you all about that. That's not really why I'm calling you right now. Really why I'm calling is just ask, is there anything we can be doing better? The only way our team has been able to get to this point where we've had as streamlined and as customer-focused process as we do is that we've gotten feedback from people exactly like you. And what that allows us to do is that when we do business again, or when you refer your friends and family to us, we can be even better than we are now for you today. So is there anything that we could be doing better? 9 times out of 10, Val, the client's going to say, absolutely not, right? You guys are awesome. But 1 times out of 10, they're going to say, you know what? The handoff between person A and person B was a little bit sloppy. I was confused. It's like, okay, that is such awesome feedback. Really appreciate it. I'm going to work on that. I'll get back to you, X period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cool part about that whole script, right, is that you're doing 2 things. You're getting real-time feedback. Well, 3 things really. You're getting real-time feedback on things that can be legitimately improved in your business, which is very important. Second thing you're doing is you're setting the expectation with a very low pressure, no call to action way, right? It's an assumptive close, right? I'm assuming we're going to be so awesome that we're going to get business from you in the future, and you're going to be referring your friends and family in. So I want to be better then than I am today for you and for them, right? And I'm being vulnerable, right? I'm asking for constructive feedback, right? That's something that only a very confident business would be in a position to do, right? And then at the end of the transaction, I would celebrate. I would ask for the business. And if you're not celebrating and asking for the business, actually, I want to back up 1 step. There's another thing, and you'll notice this when you get access to the pre-purchase consultation, dreams and goals journey, and then in the midst of the transaction, you're also going to be capturing information about ancillary partners that you can be building a web with your business. So financial planners, property casualty, that's homeowners and auto insurance, trust attorneys, estate planning attorneys, anybody that touches real estate that could have a positive impact on this family that you're looking to help, you want to be sure that they've built a team. So Val, extraordinarily wealthy families, right? Top 1% families have something called a family office, right? It's basically just a team of experts that serves a family. the high net worth individual, and gives them the information they need to continue to build their wealth. Team, you should be thinking of yourself, and I'm going to quote my good friend Dave Savage of Mortgage Coach. You should be thinking of yourself as the captain of the wealth team, right? So you can't be the captain of a team if you don't have a team, right?
Mhm.
So for that family, the wealth team is all those ancillary service providers that are more expert in one area or another than you are, that you're going to need to access in order to maximize the lifetime value of that client's wealth through real estate or any other aspect of real estate and finance that might ultimately provide additional value to them. So you're going to want to make sure that you're both capturing and communicating with all those ancillary partners throughout the transaction. If they don't have one of them, you have a massive opportunity to refer that client to the financial planner, to the trust attorney, to the life insurance attorney, because there's certain things that if you're doing your job right, team, you're going to be introducing your clients to somebody that can protect their assets through life insurance post-closing. You're going to refer them to somebody that can protect their estate planning through a trust or will. These are things that are not thought of by those $1.2 billion companies, right? And if they are thought of at all, they're thought of as how can we squeeze one more penny out of this client, not how can we maximize our communication of financial literacy to improve communities, which is what all of us are here to do.
Yeah. Man, if people don't have 14 takeaways by now, they're doing it wrong. I think it's going to be a challenge to pick just one, but no, this is great. So that we're really talking about during the transaction. These are the things that you should be doing to communicate, provide the best experience, and even provide the best experience for your referral partners. So those CPAs, financial attorneys that you have, you're also then sending business to them while adding value to the consumer. So after that transaction is closed, you have added more value and introduced them to your other partners. You've asked for the future business in some sort of way, whether you're setting those milestones into the future. What are the milestones that you really should plan for? What are those different meetings after the transaction closes, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, every year after? What kind of things do you recommend implementing?
So team, there's an article that I read about 9 months ago that talked about transaction frequency, and it went on a spectrum between habit forming and forgettable. So a habit forming transaction is one that happens, more than once a month, right? Any, checking your bank account or, going on your, mint.com app or something like that, or going on Amazon, right? Like, those things are habit forming. A mortgage transaction, real estate transactions, unfortunately are forgettable. They're in the forgettable zone as this article would define it. And the evidence, based on what I said before, about over 85% of clients not remembering the name of their mortgage advisor, would support the fact that what we do is forgettable. We need to change that, right? We need to stop selling a forgettable product. How do you do that, right? You get into a higher frequency relationship with your client. So you've already set the plan, right? That was the whole point of the pre-purchase consultation, right? And you executed step one of the plan, which is the transaction that you just finished with that client. Now, in order to be in integrity, you need to follow through on the plan. And so the Art of Homeownership method for that is to have a 3-month call where you just check in, make sure that the initial steps of the plan were met. Is the life insurance policy set up? Have they got their trust set up to protect their estate? If something happened in the future, and protect their legacy and their generational wealth, which is what a properly designed plan should be creating for that family, legacy and generational wealth. So you have a 3-month check-in, a 6-month check-in, and at a minimum after that, an annual financial review. Now, all of these scripts and checkpoints are captured inside of that same e-learning platform on Art of Homeownership, so you can understand, what you do in the 3-month call, what you do in the 6-month call, or what one of your team members does, on the 3, 6, and annual financial review calls. What I'll also recommend doing, team, and this is why I said earlier that, this market may be happening for you, not to you, is that if you're doing it right, and you're following through, your client should know exactly when they're going to transact with you again. No one should proverbially leave your office at the end of a transaction without knowing exactly when you're going to interact again. So whether that's because per your plan that they just locked in at a 5.5% interest rate, and you expect that sometime within the next 18 months they might be able to access, let's say, a 4.75% interest rate, which would be a material savings for them. Show them what that looks like and educate them about what the next transaction will look and feel like with you, so that you're not scrambling in the future. This is the same, methodology as the appraisal gap strategy: predict, preempt, prevent. You need to predict what the future will hold and prevent that client from opening up a mailer that says they should refinance with a $1.2 billion marketing budget and getting taken out of your trusted tribe and moved over to theirs, right? If you anchor in what relationship with you looks like, you have a defensible business, right? You're building a moat around your business. If it's a cash out refinance for college because your clients have a 15-year-old and 2.5 years from now they're going to need to get a little bit of money out, set that expectation up front and be prepared to follow through on it with them when that time comes, not if it comes, because we all have been through enough market cycles to know that those ebbs and flows create opportunity for us. And the market right now, team, when you're locking in families in the mid fives or low sixes, whatever it looks like right now, this is your opportunity to shine for them, because you're going to need to unlock some of that cash flow in the future for them, right? The opportunity will be there. I can't predict when it'll happen, right? Nobody has a crystal ball, but there's some people way smarter than me that are out there communicating the opportunity for a recession and what that might look like for our business. And what I would recommend everybody kind of anchor into, it's not about us, right? Yes, maybe we would all love to be back in a refi boom. I don't know about you, but 2020 was pretty rough in my opinion, even though it was, I'm sure financially abundant for everybody. Let's get prepared for the next one of those by thinking about what our clients need. And they need to unlock some of that cash flow. They did exactly what they needed to do. They stayed in the housing market despite headwinds, despite fear, despite all this noise in the media. They stayed in the housing market. They locked in their 2022 house price, and they accepted an interest rate that they thought they would never have, right? And now that home will continue to appreciate because of all the macroeconomic forces that will drive that forward. And you have a chance to take their fixed payment lower and lower and lower as the market evolves over time, but only if you're there for them, only if you show up, and only if you follow through.
So I do want to talk about that quickly, because we're quickly approaching our time limit here. But when you're setting those milestones and you're like getting ahead of your client and yourself really, and whatever the market is going to do, what does that look like in terms of getting the most value? Now, I don't want to say this in a transactional way where it seems really surface level, but how do you work on getting the most value out of those clients through the life of when they're in your environment? I mean, like, what is the lifetime value of that one client?
Yeah. So Val, if you think about, I'll answer it mathematically and I'll answer it really quickly. So let's say you have somebody that is, what I'll say first is the only way to get value is to create value, right? The universe is very simple, right? And it tells us all the time what it needs, right? And people have been trying to describe this process for thousands of years, call it karma or whatever, right? If you do good things are going to come back. If you add value, you will get value. I firmly believe that, right? So let's take a 5.5% interest rate, right? And let's say your average net commission is $2,500, right? And we believe rates are going to test all-time lows sometime in the next 3 years, and rates go down more slowly than they go up, right? So these are hypotheses, givens that may or may not come true. Well, that 5.5% interest rate would refinance a minimum of 3 times. If you assume every 75 basis points in rate would be a new transaction. So anybody that's in your database today, and you can decide for yourself what your average net commission is. I'm using $2,500 just for, anchoring in this conversation. Every single person in your database is worth $7,500, but only if you go through the process of keeping in touch with them and defending your business against people that want to sell your clients 15-year fix with 2 points. Your clients don't need 15-year fix with 2 points. They need the plan you set for them executed on. And if you show up for them and you continue to add value, you can continue to get those opportunities to transact and have your business receive value.
Yeah, that was very quick and to the point. That was great, Danny. So for the last few minutes, we really want to talk about, because we're talking about kind of the conceptual, like how to get the most value out of your clients, how to stay in touch and create this great experience. But from the art of home ownership perspective, how do you see technology fitting in with this to make this whole process easier? So finding what you should be working on and delegating the rest.
Yeah, Val. And, you said a second ago, like, man, if you don't have 14 takeaways, right? Like, this is the problem, team. This is too much for one person to do, or even you and an LOA to do. Like, it's just too much. And I know that, like, I can see it even as I'm rattling off all these strategies, right? There's only so many hours in the day. And here's the other part of this. And this is where what's called the genius zone comes in. There's a incredible book by a guy named Gay Hendricks called Finding Your Genius Zone. I first learned about this from my friend and mentor, Tim Brahim. He really introduced this concept to me and shared it. This idea that we should not only be thinking about what gives us a high ROI, return on investment, but what gives us a high ROE, return on energy. And where we have high ROI and high ROE, that's our genius zone, right? Just to overly simplify the concept. So for me, like doing stuff like this, super high ROE, right? Interacting with referral partners, creating strategies, doing that pre-purchase consultation. Those things were high ROE, high ROI. Mining the database, reviewing and calculating income on tax returns, managing credit alerts, right? Those things are extraordinarily important. High ROI, right? We just said it's worth $7,500 if your net commission's $2,500. However, for me, those were not high ROE. They would drain me. Getting caught by an underwriter because a condition was missed, right? Low ROE activities. They would take me off the freeway and just destroy my energy and prevent me from being able to focus on those areas that really were and should always be, my area of focus for the team. So I will challenge you. Anybody that thinks that they're the only one that can do something in their business, it has been proven time and time again that you're wrong, right? The things that you are uniquely suited to do most likely are lead and lead generate. And anything else, and we talked a lot about lead conversion today. We talked a lot about transaction management. We talked a lot about creating lifetime value and creating raving fans from your database. Technology like Sales Boomerang, right, is a technology. Like HomeBot, which is part of the art of homeownership experience. Technology like Mortgage Coach. I referenced, Dave Savage, and that process by which I would set the expectation of when doing business, what does doing business would look like again, was facilitated by total cost analysis. If you're not doing that, highly recommend looking into it. So if you leverage technology, I just threw out a couple, there's many that I didn't mention, and leverage team members that like doing the things you don't like to do. And team, I'll drop one absolute gold nugget. So our business now employs a role that I'm convinced is a 10x return on investment for our loan officers. And it's called a Client Success Manager, CSM. And the job of the Client Success Manager is to do the 3-month call, the 6-month call, and the annual financial review. Why? Because I would not do them consistently. I would get caught, and I know a lot of our loan officers are in the same boat, right? They get caught with distractions and other priorities. And unfortunately, if you're not doing it consistently, you might as well not be doing it. You certainly don't want to commit to it. So by automating best practice, right, which is what that role does, it's not a technology automation, it's a human automation, we're able to deliver consistently on our promise to the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this was so much value in so little time, but I'm very impressed. We covered so much today. So, Danny, I can't thank you enough for joining us on a Saturday. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you're listening to this and thinking and wondering how you can implement these systems, Art of Homeownership is one of those systems that Danny mentioned. Feel free to, there's a link in the comments if you want to book a group demo, see what it's all about, and see how this can make your business better. But there are so many takeaways aside from just technology that you could be implementing in your business. So like Danny said, take one takeaway and implement it in your business, and that's a huge win for the day. So Danny,
Awesome.
thank you so much for joining, and we will see you guys in 15 minutes with Shashank Shakar for our last session of the day. So
Have
we
a
will
great
see
weekend, team.